today's Project Diaries, I will show you how to make a really cheap peat-free potting mix.
Hi and welcome to Project Diaries. In today's video I'm going to teach you how to make a really cheap potting mix. Now I know this channel attracts quite a lot of beginner gardeners and a few of you are still using dirt from your garden. Now this isn't advisable at all and you might not get results. I don't want you being disappointed, so today's video hopefully will help you solve that. And the reason why you don't use garden dirt is there's so many reasons. One, there may not be enough nutrients in there to grow sort of vegetables, really needy, nutritious vegetables like tomatoes and cucumbers and things like that. So you really need something that's got lots of nitrogen and carbon mixed in. Also, if you're using dirt from the garden and you live in an older house or older an area that's sort of 1940s, 50s, 60s, they used to put a lot of lead in house paints back in the day. So a lot of that still becomes into the soil, so be really careful when growing around older buildings. Anyway, that said, today's video I want to show you how to make a really nutritious potting mix, and here's how to do it. So the first ingredient that you need for a really good potting mix is a multi-purpose compost. Now, so many people on the internet tell you to go with peat moss. I don't agree with peat moss at all. It's not a sustainable material that you can get. It's actually quite detrimental to the ozone as well. So make sure you get a peat-free multi-purpose compost. Now this one's really cheap. This was 99p a bag, and there's so many different supermarkets that are doing this now. So please look in your local supermarkets for these. So let's get started.
So I'm going to use one of the biggest containers that I've got at the moment. As you know, I've already grown potatoes in these, so it works really well for that as well. So I'm just going to gently open the bag up this way, and as I've got a back injury I'm going to be really careful lifting the bag up, and I'm just going to use around half the bag. Now you're going to find loads of other videos on YouTube on how to do this, and every gardener has different techniques and different materials they like to use, but this is the one I like to use this year. There's also loads of different soil supplements that you can use, so check out this video if you haven't seen it already. This will give you some other great ideas. So here's a close-up. It's really fluffy, it's really nutritiously dense, and it will really soak up water well.
Now there's many resources that you can use as a peat moss replacement, so you really don't need to use peat moss at all. So today I'm going to use leaf mould, and I've been using this since last year, and it rots down a lot easier, so it takes about 2 or 3 years to do, but today should be fine. So let's take a closer look.
So I'm just going to open the bag up to show you what I've done inside. It's really good to use the biggest bag that you've got to seal these in, because basically a huge bag like this will reduce down to a really small amount of leaf mould once it's finished breaking down. Just going to get Mr. Slug out of the way because I don't want him in the bag. Now if you leave these leaves whole, and as long as they're moist, these will break down by themselves over a number of years. Leaves don't need as much oxygen to break down as compost do, but they do need some moisture, and as you can see this one's dried out a little bit. But if I dig down to the bottom you can see it's a lot blacker and a lot more soil-like, but there's loads of big chunks in this, so I need to break it down a little bit more to help it. So before I close this bag up I'm going to give it a really good watering, but here's how I break the other stuff down. So I've got a bucket of the larger leaves here and a garden sieve, and I'm going to use this a bit like a cheese grater to make the leaves a lot more smaller. The smaller the pieces, the quicker they will break down, and once fully broken down the nutrients will be completely plant available once they're in the soil. Now leaves are a highly nutritious supplement for the garden. Throughout the year the tree brings up all the nutrients from the soil throughout the trunk of the tree and produces them in the leaves before autumn. So when fall comes, definitely harvest as many leaves as you can. You do want to avoid pine leaves and oak tree leaves, this will change your pH. But most other leaves, in my opinion, are the best and free source for carbon in the garden. Now I know it freaked out a lot of people, but using human urine can really help break down the leaves a lot quicker if you don't want to invest a few years into making this. Urine is also a great source of nitrogen, so check out this video if you want to learn more. Another peat replacement that some people use is coir. This is a byproduct used from coconut husks. It's way more environmentally friendly than peat moss, but because it's predominantly made in Asia and places like India and Sri Lanka, the amount of fossil fuels used to ship it halfway around the world isn't good for the planet either. Which is why I definitely encourage people to make their own leaf mould. Not only is it free, but you can just top it up year after year, and it's absolutely incredible to use. I will be making loads of environmentally friendly videos in the future, so don't forget to click the subscribe button. So now I've had a really good arm workout shredding all the leaves. I've also topped the bucket up with all the brown and darker pieces at the bottom of the bag. So the next step is mixing all the parts up that I'm going to use. So I'm just going to chuck in the rest of this bag. Now this is a 20 litre bag. You can buy a lot bigger, but this is all I could lift at the time, so that's all I have. Another way to save plastic is to buy the bigger bag as possible, or you can even buy it loose. I also keep these compost bags to use as liners for hanging baskets and other things like that, so nothing goes to waste in Grandad's house. After I've filled the container up with compost, I'm just going to pour the leaf mould in. Now again, this has a lot more breaking down to do, so it will shrink, but it's such a really good resource for keeping the moisture in the soil. The next part is the fun part. You just get your hands in and mix it all up thoroughly. Now usually I wouldn't use gloves, but I've had so many people moaning about my dirty fingernails, I thought I'd use these today. I'm a gardener, give me a break. I can pretty much guarantee that when it comes round to me making Grandad's dinner, that my fingernails are cleaner than your kitchen. Now outside of Project Diaries, my life is pretty stressful, so things like this are really therapeutic, and I just love the way that gardening is. It really keeps you in the moment, so any stress, anxiety or depression goes away as soon as I'm in the garden. I think I've nearly finished mixing this up. You really want to get down to the bottom and really pull the soil out from each corner and take out any big chunks that you find. Now I'm going to leave this in this container, and I'm making this a few months before growing season just to give it that little bit extra time to break down. And as I've grown potatoes in these previously, they've already got drainage holes, and luckily I've got a lid for this, so it will preserve it over the next few months. You do want to keep the soil moist but not too soaked or dry. At this point compost rules apply, so if you want to learn more, check out the video here. The next ingredient I'm going to add is powdered eggshells. Now I have done a separate video on this if you want to check it out, the link is on the screen now. Now this will give you a tremendous calcium boost if you're growing peppers or tomatoes or anything like that. This will also prevent blossom end rot. The next ingredient is going to be a cup of powdered banana peels. Now this is good for a really good boost of potassium and phosphorus, which help grow a really strong root system and are great for overall plant health. If you want to learn more about using banana peels in the garden, check out the link on the screen now. So I'm not going to let the moaners tell me what to do. I've taken my gloves off and it's time to get my hands dirty. There's no point in getting involved in nature if you can't feel it between your fingers. The next ingredient I'm going to use is perlite. You can also use vermiculite, and as usual I'll put the links in the description box below if you want to get hold of these online. Now again, unlike other YouTube videos that I've seen online, people are using polystyrene. What are you thinking? Perlite is a natural rock that absorbs moisture. Polystyrene doesn't absorb anything, and it's a really toxic plastic, so do not use this in your garden at any cost. If you see any gardeners online using any harmful chemicals or plastics, stop watching them. They don't have a clue what they're going on about. So at the moment I've roughly used 2 big buckets of compost, 1 bucket of leaf mould, 1 cup of eggshells, 1 cup of banana peels, and around 2 to 3 cups of perlite or vermiculite. Then again, you really want to get your hands involved and mix all this up thoroughly so you get a really good mixture of all the ingredients throughout the entire container. Now the last ingredient I'm going to use is Epsom salt. This is really good to use at home in really hot baths for achy muscles and fatigue, but it's also really good to use in a garden. Now you don't want to use too much of this, but it's really good to boost the overall plant health, as it's a really good soil supplement for magnesium. So I'm just going to pour it out gently and roughly use around a palmful. Now you can also dissolve Epsom salt in water and use it as a plant feed, but again you don't really want too much magnesium in the soil, so just using a little goes a long way. And then again, using your hands, thoroughly mix it through and then you're done. Now I'm making this just after winter. We've just had some really warm weather, so I decided to make this today, but you can make this at any time of the year as long as you've got a lid and you can keep it in this container. It's always good to do it a few months ahead of time and let it all break down and mature.
Well, hopefully you've enjoyed today's video on how to make a really cheap, non-peat based nutritious potting mix for all of your plants. I've really enjoyed today's video, I hope you have too. Don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to see future videos, and I'll see you again next time. Good luck gardening. If you'd like to keep up to date on all of my future releases, click the subscribe button here. Here are some links to some of my other videos. And if you tried this or any other project, I'd love to see your progress, so please join my Facebook gardening group where thousands of people are sharing photos and ideas daily. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.